Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hair of the Dog podcast. Today we are chatting with Knicki and Laurie from Urban Dog Studios all about what it looked like to start a partnership in their business, as well as the podcast they've recently created for their local market. This is an incredible conversation, and it is such a fun way to think about ways that we can bring our community together and market our business, and because we all know that human connection and actually getting to know actual humans in our market is really the key for really starting to grow our business, and a podcast can be a really fun way to do that. So take a listen and enjoy. Whether you want to start a podcast or not, I think you're still going to find lots of great information inside this episode. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hair of the Dog podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Begley, and today I have not one, but two incredible guests. I have Laurie Elmer, that you guys probably know from Urban Dog Studios, pet photographer around the St. Pete area, and Knicki Knowlton. And together, these guys started a pretty awesome little local podcast that we're going to be talking all about. But first, Knicki and Laurie, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Oh my goodness. So excited to have you guys. Laurie, you first, tell us a little bit about your pet photography journey and a little bit about, Urban Dog Studios and how that came to be.
Sure. So the short story is I actually started pet photography back in around 2004. I was an accidental pet photographer. My husband's a veterinarian, and he and his partner were opening up a new practice, and they needed artwork for the lobby. And they tasked me with that. Knowing that the two of them had very different taste, I knew this was going to be a bad situation. So I tried to come up with something that I thought everybody would love. And being a landscape and wildlife photographer, I thought, I'll just photograph everybody's pets. How hard could that be? So I literally went to Home Depot and bought shop lights and got some fabric, and I did photos of everybody's pets. And oddly enough, they came out pretty darn good for a first try. We hung them up, and then clients started asking me to do their pets. So I started doing that, and I did that for a little while. I wasn't really marketing. And then, again, a long story, I ended up getting hooked up with a magazine editor who then started asking me for submissions for their pet magazine. So I ended up doing a bunch of photography for Popular Dog, Dogs USA, a whole bunch of different dog magazines. So most of my early work was editorial, and I guess I did that till around 2014.
Okay.
Along the way, I actually knew Knicki all of that time. She lived in Oregon, and we met online.
You met online?
We met online. It was in a critique group, a photography critique group.
It was love at first sight.
I love
and
it.
then just sort of fast forward to, I don't know, Knicki, when did you move here?
I moved here 2012. So I moved to Florida in 2012 and sent Laurie a message. Hey, I moved to this town. Are you anywhere near me? I have no friends yet. I was here like a week. And she's like, oh my God, you're 45 minutes away. Come up. And it was perfect. And it's kind of crazy because we did meet online like 20 years ago in a critique group, and we had so much in common, and we've always just kind of gotten along. Knock on wood, it's been like 20 years, and
you still like each other.
We don't hate
she
each
doesn't
other
hate
yet.
me yet, and that's amazing. Every once in a while, I'm like, oh, she's gonna block my number soon. But
that's over.
Yeah, I lived down there, and fast, went from internet friends to actually real life friends. So
And we started shooting together. So it's just assisting for each other, and then just sort of the universe all came together. That's another long story. But in 2019, just the stars aligned for us to form Urban Dog Studio together jointly, and just in time for COVID.
It was great.
But COVID is actually what prompted us to do a book project. And it wasn't like most of the book projects that we see a lot of photographers doing. It was a lot more, we involved a lot more of the community. So it's basically dogs taking people on a tour.
There's a lot of history in it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Through St. Pete, the iconic locations, pet-friendly locations. And then it's public art has had a lot to do with St. Pete's Renaissance. And if anybody knows, or if you Google St. Petersburgh, you'll see that it's amazing. It's an amazing city for the arts. And that's really, in my mind, what revitalized the city. And now it's, I mean, you can't even afford to live there. It's crazy. Um,
It's
but
very artsy. It's
but there
nice. I
was,
mean, it's,
yeah, but there were so many new people in the area that I wanted to do a book to teach them a little bit about the history of the city because it's my hometown. I was born
mhm.
there, and so I wanted to make sure people knew why certain places were called what they were. So we partnered with the St. Petersburgh Museum of History. We also worked with the city, and we also worked with a lot of businesses. And it was through all of those connections that we realized that that's how we build our business. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, that was a big jumpstart for us. And not only that, but it also connected us more with the pet community because a lot of the places we were going were pet friendly businesses or pet centric businesses. It might have been the dog bar or some of those
Yeah.
locations. So we just got to know these people even more through the book project. Um,
It
and
opened a lot of doors and gave us opportunities I don't think that we would have gotten just doing a regular book. I mean, it's a longer story, but we ended up on the field for the Rowdies, which is the local soccer team,
Mm-hmm.
shooting that dog. And then from there, we got to play on the field of the Rays. So in the
Oh, cool.
Tropicana. And I
yeah, we
never
were
thought I would get to do that. So it's like,
we
woo,
were literally laying on the laying
on the pitcher's
on
mound.
on the
Yeah.
pitcher's mound, photographing a dog, both on the mound and on home plate. It's just
Yeah.
us. They turned on the stadium lights just for us. I mean,
Just
that
for
was pretty
us.
cool.
It
Wow.
was,
So,
That's pretty big.
yeah, and then we were also on the airstrip. So we had planes flying overhead on the local municipal airport on that field too, because the owners of the flight school there are all dog lovers, and so
Oh my gosh, I
yeah,
love
they have
that.
a dog that stays there and a cat.
yeah. So that opened up so many doors for us, and we realized that being tied into that community was really a benefit for us. But
Mm-hmm.
it also because also people also knew that my husband was a veterinarian. So with all of our connections and everything, everybody's always asking us questions about how do I do this with my dog or how do I do that? What do I feed them? How do I teach them to walk better on a leash? Where can I go for the best
Yeah.
pup cup in town? So they're always asking us and like, well, we don't necessarily know, but we do know the people who know. And how do we serve this need? And so
Mm-hmm.
and we were just sort of joking. It's like, oh my God, we should start a podcast. So people stop asking us and we just refer them to the podcast. And so, that was a
Here
big part of it.
here we
Here
are.
we are.
And here
Here
we
we
are.
are.
Yeah.
I
And
love
Laurie
I,
that.
had to
So,
drag me a little bit down the road because I'm like, that's a great idea. And so same thing with the book. She was like, what do you think? I'm like, that's a great idea. Podcast. What do you think? That's a great idea. She's like, let's do it. I'm like, I have to record my voice. No.
oh my gosh, I know. Everyone hates their voice, myself included. And then you just do it enough and you just don't even care anymore.
I'm
right.
having
Oh,
so much fun with it. I really, if you listen, and we're on episode 13, I think we recorded yesterday, but the first episode, I'm like, I don't want to be here. I'm scared. And now I'm like, yes, let's do this. When's the
Yeah,
next
no, it's
one?
so fun. I love it.
yeah.
I wanna go back to that book project and,
Mhm.
just the importance of meeting the different people in your market because so many times I see photographers of any genre struggling for marketing and struggling to get clients and really getting to know people in your local market is the fastest way to start to like get some momentum in your business. And
Mhm.
so I love that that book project started that and I love that it led into the idea of, oh, let's maybe, go ahead and roll this into a podcast type thing where we continue those relationships, continue sharing and connecting everybody in our market. Because that always ends up coming back. If not immediately, it does end up coming back by building that
Mhm.
momentum of people
Oh
coming
yeah,
back
and
to your business.
it's all completely long game here. This is
Yeah.
not, we're not going to do this thing and expect people to be banging down our door tomorrow. But just an example, because we did the book project, and that was in 2020 and part of 2021, we got a call about a month and a half ago from someone who owns a wine loft in St.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Pete, and they're expanding, and they decided that they wanted to have they're pet friendly, they're dog friendly,
Yep.
and they wanted to do one of their walls just with portraits of their clients'
Their own
dogs.
clients. Yeah.
So we're now booked with mini sessions for those. And just an example of one that came in, he booked 2 sessions. They're $390 for the mini session, and then he ended up buying an album. So I mean, just that one and we have
Yep.
a lot more scheduled, that was a $2,800 sale, so all of those
And that
things.
came from the book, from a client that was in the book that was friends with, and we
Mhm.
actually have a
Mhm.
canvas in their shop.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love it. It's a gift to
Yeah,
keep
so
on
it's
giving.
yeah, it's exactly. It's all about making those connections, but not expecting anything immediately. It's all long game. People aren't going to
Right.
just meet you once and feel,
Mhm.
they're not going to know, love, and trust you that quickly.
Yep.
It's going to take time, and I'm fortunate that I've lived in the area long enough too that I have, having that passion for the location. I
Mhm.
think is what allowed us to get into a lot of doors when we were doing the book project. So, yeah. And then for
But
the
yeah.
the podcast, certainly my husband's connections through the veterinary community have come in handy as well. So
Yeah,
it's
no,
like
for
you use
sure.
use everything, use everything you can
Using,
find.
yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want any of you guys listening to be like, "Well, see, that's why she can do it, 'cause her husband's a veterinarian and they have
Oh
connections
no.
and she's lived there her whole
No,
entire life."
I don't have a husband that's a veterinarian. I don't even have a husband. So, yeah,
No.
it's
Mm-mm.
about relationships
Mhm.
because I mean, I've worked in the vet field before, not as a tech or obviously a doctor,
Mhm.
but it's relationships that you've built with
Mhm.
other people.
Mhm.
So we've been able to
Right.
pull that. So,
And
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
truthfully, since we relaunched in 2019, I have not booked a single client through my husband's office. So, I mean,
Yeah.
No, we
initially
haven't.
it was shut down because of COVID, so nobody could go
Yeah.
in the lobby. And then, yeah, and I honestly, I just I haven't felt the need to really promote through there. I mean, we have a bunch of artwork on the walls, but we haven't booked any clients through that. It's just, um, just getting out in the community and reconnecting with people that I've known for years, or just, hooking up with local rescues and volunteering, not asking for anything, but
Mhm.
going and,
Volunteering.
yeah,
Yeah.
and,
Donating. We donated an auction item during COVID, and it went to nobody even bought it. So that was exciting. Our first, like, here's our gift, and there nobody was like, no, thank you. But it caught the eye of the editor for St. Pete Life, and so we ended up in there, and that
yeah, so
made
we ended
great
up with
friends with
a
her.
3-page spread in
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
a
a local
local
magazine.
magazine that goes to households, earning over
Yep.
$150,000 a year. So,
Yeah.
it kind of was targeting the right demographic for us. And so again, it's all long game, and it was crickets for a long time. I mean, we've
Yeah.
we had to hustle, and we just make it fun for ourselves, and we find other ways to make it rewarding. And and there's still quiet times for us, and that's
Yeah, of
okay.
course.
We just use
Yep.
that for marketing and new projects like
Yeah,
podcasts
I
and
love
stuff
it.
like.
So
Podcast.
are both of you, Lori, I know you shoot. Nikki, are you
Oh
shooting in
yeah.
the business too? How
Yeah,
does
I'm
you
shooting
guys
in the
have that set up?
business. There's been times where we've both shot where we take turns with a little bit
Yeah.
during the session, but there's always two of us. One's helping handle the dog, and the other one's shooting.
Oh,
Mhm.
fun. Awesome.
So
I
Yeah,
love
we
it.
assist for each other, and then Nikki is also fabulous with
I like me some
people.
peoples.
She likes photographing people too, which is not. I mean, I'll do it, and I love photographing people with their pets. But if it's just people, that's kind of Nikki's jam.
I
So
Yeah,
love
nice.
people.
she's really good at that too.
Yeah. So when we met, she was landscape. What's funny is because I was one of those like, landscape, and now I'm like, oh, isn't this a pretty hill? So she was doing the landscape and the pets, and I was doing people and kids and families and some weddings and that type of lifestyle stuff. And so when we got together, I'm like, yeah, dogs, that'll be fun. And I love shooting the dogs. It's a lot of fun. But I don't know how to describe it. If you watch Lori shoot dogs, I mean, photograph dogs,
Yeah, right.
you can tell she's in a zone. She's like in that like runner's high, and I've seen her in it. I'm like, wow, I don't get that with dogs. I have the fun. I'm having a
Yeah.
blast, but she is like, let's go for 5 hours, and I'm like, I am tired. With you, if you put me with people and families and children and throw in a dog, I am in, let's go for 5 hours. So we both get that, but just from
Mhm.
different places.
I
So
love
it
that. I
works
would love
out.
to talk just a little bit too, because I know our listeners are going to be having questions of like, how did this partnership kind of come together? Was it just like, hey,
Okay.
let's build a business
Actually,
together? Or what
yeah.
did
I
that look
know
like?
exactly. We know exactly when it happened. So my husband's partner owned another practice, and they wanted some website photos. This was in, I think, 2018.
18,
And
yeah.
yeah, they wanted some website photos, and I really wasn't even promoting my business at the time, but they knew, that
Yeah.
I did this. And so they reached out to me. I'm like, yeah, we can do this. So they wanted photos with them plus their pet.
Uh-huh.
And so I said, yeah, we can do that. And I'm like, Nikki, you want to give me a hand? And she's like,
Yeah.
sure, I'll do that. And so we went, and I think it was a
We did it
weekend
on a
day
Sunday. It was a Sunday. It
because the
was,
practice was closed, and we did
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
it
it
at the
was
practice. Yeah,
lugging the giant backdrops and lights in this tiny little spot, and it was a blast.
yeah. And so we had a great time. And Nikki's looking at me, and she's like, this is what we should be doing.
It's
And
like,
I'm
why aren't
like,
we
yeah,
doing this? Why
yeah,
aren't we
yeah.
doing this? Yeah.
And
Why do
of
I have
I
course,
to go to
love it.
work on Monday? I don't
I
want
was
to.
still, yeah, I still had my corporate job, and it was one of those velvet handcuff type situations
Yeah,
where,
right.
a nice paycheck plus really great benefits and all of that. And I didn't really hate it at that
Yep.
point.
Yep.
She
But
didn't
then,
hate it, and we worked for the same company, but I was at the point like, I gotta go. Like, I'm only
Yeah.
here for
That's the
you.
next
Like,
thing.
that's the
Yep.
only reason I log in every day is because I don't want to tell you I quit. So,
yeah, but
so it took a little
anyway,
bit, and then Lori was like, I quit.
and then yeah, the corporate culture changed, and I'd had enough. And I knew that I was at a place where it was a good time, all the way
Yeah.
around. So the universe was just kicking me in the ass and telling me to
Yeah.
to make a change. And so it was in February of 2019. I went over to Nikki's house. We sat down, and it's like, we're going to do this. And we
Yeah.
had no idea how we were going to make it happen because it's Florida. And I knew we were going to have a studio because it's so hard to shoot
Yeah.
outside unless we're in the water
Yep.
during the warm months, which is pretty much 9 months out of the year.
Right.
Yeah.
And so initially we were going to convert her garage. We couldn't
Yeah.
really do it at my house because we couldn't have people with their pets coming over knowing where my husband lives, because
Oh,
you'll have
uh-huh.
every
People
sick
Uh-huh.
dog,
asking
they'll be knocking
questions.
on the
Yeah.
door. And so we were going to convert Nikki's garage and just do it from there. And she has a huge backyard, so we were
Yeah, we
envisioning
were
all these
planning on that.
vignettes that we were going to plant with really cool stuff and
Yeah.
create some great backgrounds. But luckily, we landed on our studio space, which was just a screaming deal. And it was in a part of, it's in with an arts community that's just a wonderful community. And
Yeah,
so,
it's
like I said,
excellent.
the universe just kept making it all happen. Well,
It's
Wow,
crazy.
that's
I
minus
mean,
awesome.
COVID.
mine is COVID, but so Lori found the art studio where we're at, and she was like, "What do you think?" I'm like, "Let's go by." And so we went by, and the guy that answered the door, I mean, talk about like the universe and all of that working out for you. The guy that answered the door is married to the niece of somebody I knew in Oregon. And I
Oh,
came from a
wow.
very small town. So the
Mhm.
chances of anybody out here knowing any that even the name of that town was
Right.
amazing. It was like, "Oh, wow." So it's just been like this is where we're supposed to be.
Mhm.
And it's
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And yeah, it's just I know that people would love to hear about just how did this happen, because it's not very often actually that you hear of partnerships other than sometimes like spouses. But
Mhm.
I can't think of too many partnerships in a photography business where it's, two
we do a really good
non-spouses,
yin
two
and
friends.
yang.
Yeah. That's
And
fantastic.
Yeah.
yeah, we do we laugh, and I know it's frustrating. And Lori's good at keeping her cool with me, is we always have the same vision. So what's funny about us is we have the same vision, but we go about it completely different.
Mhm.
So if we were trying to build a box, I come from the left and she comes from the right. And sometimes it's like, what do you no, that's not how you build the box. And the other day she was trying to move, what was it? It was a light. It was something. It was a backdrop. And I'm like, I don't understand what you're saying. Because I wanted to roll it one way and she wanted to roll it another way. We had the same vision. It's
Right.
just two ways to go about it. And so it works out really well.
Because I usually
Yeah.
get my way. I usually get
She
my
does
way.
get her way. Out of the 2 of us, she definitely I definitely do a little, "Okay, we'll do it your way." But there are times where I've just dug my feet in the ground and she's like, "Fine, you can have the pink backdrop. Okay, we'll do some flowers." So,
Nikki's
That's
into
funny.
props, and I like
I
just
love,
plain simple, and she wants to throw all the stuff on
I'm like balloons.
I love it.
Um,
So if a client comes to Urban Dog Studio, gets in touch with you guys, do they choose like who they want to photograph, or is there like, is it just you're getting a session with one or both, or kind of what does that
Mhm.
look like?
we're
You know,
both
we
there.
yeah, we're both there. We kind of leave it open. So, I mean, it's not uncommon where I'll be lying on the ground photographing a dog and Nikki's assisting, but the dog is like giving her these really great looks. And I'll just put the camera in her hands and say, shoot it. Or
Yeah.
vice
Yeah, right.
versa. Or she's shooting something and, I might be straightening something up, but the dog's like the angle, I have the better angle. So
Yeah.
we both always have a camera ready to rock and roll. We use triggers that are on the same
Same
channel, or
channel.
if we're doing a location shoot and we have a pet owner that is able to manage their dog on their own and we're not having to wrangle, then one of us will usually have a telephoto and the other will be up close doing some
Okay.
some wide angle
Yeah.
shots or detail shots, or we're just getting things from different angles, so we're able to tell a broader story.
Yeah.
And that comes in really handy because, like I said, Nikki is great at looking. She does a lot better than I do at looking at interactions,
Yep.
whereas I'm a little bit more of a technical shooter, more of a close up, more of a, or I'll shoot things from more of an editorial standpoint, but not a lifestyle standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So Nikki definitely has more of a lifestyle feel to her images than I do. Where I don't know if it's because of I have a BFA in art where like everything has to follow.
She's very
Just
technical.
I don't think about it, but just my brain just goes
Right.
to rule of thirds or whatever, and Nikki's shoots a lot looser. So it really gives us an opportunity to give clients just a
A little
really
bit of
nice
everything.
variety. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it works out
Yeah.
well.
It
Nice.
works
That's
out.
awesome.
There's times where I'm like, so I'll be assisting and like, oh, Lori, you've got to get this shot. And I'm like, and line it up. And it's like, please
Yeah.
just do it for me. I don't
Mhm.
even have to hold the camera, but you
Just do
got to
it.
get this shot for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
So
Well,
it's
yeah,
very
we've kind of
collaborative.
I love
Hmm.
that. We've kind of gone off the deep end of what we were originally here to talk about, but I know people
Right.
will love the conversation. So let's circle it back to talk about
Okay.
the podcast, which we started to talk about. And oh my gosh, I was originally starting to think about this earlier this year. We had a special guest in the Academy, Tavia Redburn, about content marketing
Hmm.
and, talking about getting just kind of content in front of your target market. And I was like, man, I feel like a podcast in your local market would be amazing and so fun. And then I found out you guys were doing that. I'm like, oh my God, got to have you on the podcast because we need to talk about it. And so you guys have just started. Is it
Hmm.
public yet? Have you
Yep.
released it?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
Okay.
released. It's
Perfect. Yep.
released. It's Let's Bark About It Tampa Bay. Um,
I love it.
and the I mean, it's not pretty. I'm going to tell you guys, it's rough. Like we have been talking about it for over a year.
Yeah.
And finally, I just set a date on the calendar and I said, Nikki, I don't care if we're doing this with 2 tin cans and a string. We're launching this. I don't care how crappy it is. We're
She's
putting
like,
it out there
show up, Nikki.
because if we
Yeah.
don't,
A
it's like if we
minimum
can,
viable product. Just get it
yeah,
out the door.
if we
Yeah.
wait until we figure it out, it's never going to
Hmm.
happen. So literally, we recorded the first one, and I
At
didn't
like,
even know how to post it yet. So, and it's
and
like
it was
today's
like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. We had a full day and we're looking at the calendar. And it's like, today is the day we're supposed to be doing this. Should we put it off? Now we've already put it off for like a year
Right.
almost. So what's one more day? And I was exhausted. And you can hear it in my voice in that first podcast. Totally tired. And I was like, no, well, let's just do this.
let's just do it.
Let's just jump in. I don't want to do it. Was like eating, what do you call it, Lori? Eating the frog?
Eat the frog.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Eat the
Uh-huh.
frog. And I was like, okay, well, I'll eat the frog. And turns out I like frogs. So
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. So
awesome.
we recorded it, and we did it through Zoom, and and then I had to figure out how was I going to get it posted, and I just did a quick,
Mhm.
some Google searching, and I ended up going through Anchor, which is now Spotify, or they've
Okay.
merged,
Yep.
and actually the process of getting it uploaded wasn't very hard at all, and because it was just two of us on that first one, even doing the mix wasn't that hard. Because I did in advance do an intro and outro. I hired someone through Fiverr. It was really cheap. It was like $50 and got the intro and outro. And I had to license some music for
Yep.
it too. We wanted to be able to pick the music. So I forget who I licensed the music from, but it was just some online. I mean, I think I had to do like a $14 a month subscription and I could go
Yeah.
in and download stuff. So it was really inexpensive. So I picked the music, picked a script, found some, I think it, you know what, it was the very first one that came up on Fiverr that does podcast intros and
It
outros
just sounds great.
that speaks with a US accent.
Yep.
And so I just
Yeah,
hired
there's
her.
actually a website. I forget what it was, but there was a place where I hired mine. It was like a website that you could choose. It was basically all these voice models, and you get to listen to their voice. You're like, yes, I want
Yeah.
that person to
Yes,
do
that's
my
what we did.
intro,
And it,
outro, and then they had the music you could choose, and it was great.
yeah, so yeah, it was a very easy process. I sent her the script, I sent her the music files, and like 48 hours later, she had
Yeah.
it back. Um, Probably the hardest part, well, I won't say it was the hardest part, but one of the harder parts for me was how do I stick it all together? So we have like there's the pre-recorded intro and outro from Fiverr,
Yep.
but then there's also sort of the pre-intro and
Yes,
the
right.
pre-outro.
Uh-huh.
And then the actual recording. So putting all the pieces together, I had to figure that out. And then I realized, well, I have the Adobe Creative Suite. There's this thing called Adobe Audition. I'll figure it out. How hard can it be? That's always how hard could this be?
That
So
yes.
one of these days
Famous
I'm
last
gonna,
word.
one of these days I'm gonna build a house because I'm gonna start out going, how hard could this be? And then I'll construct a house. But anyway, so there was a bit of a learning curve. I did watch a lot of videos on how to do it, but I figured it out and it's
Yep.
pretty choppy and I'm still struggling with how do I mix these tracks and how do I mean, I can fade and do a little bit of blending and I learned how to clip out on that very first podcast. I let out the worst belch, just like spontaneous belch. And I figured this is a good learning opportunity to learn how to remove something from a track. And I did successfully. You can't even tell.
Yeah.
So
I've
yeah, so
choked.
so that was part of it. That was a bit of a learning curve. So if you're going to do one of these, I would say in advance, just do a few practice ones if you
Yeah.
can.
Well, and if you could also take the route of outsourcing from the start. I know when I
Right.
started my podcast, I knew myself, and I knew if I had to get into the nitty-gritty and edit or upload or do anything that became repetitive, I would just stop doing it because I
Mhm.
get bored with it, and I would just never have the time to figure it out because it's like I need to spend time figuring that out. Forget it. I have other more important things to do. So
Right.
I just
Yes.
outsourced from the
Well, and
beginning.
I'm getting closer to that point.
Yeah.
What I wanted to do was just to know how to do it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
if I had to do it, I could. And then we had to create some graphics because every platform where you post things has a
Right.
different format.
Mhm.
So we had to figure that out. And then I had to figure out how to upload it, which I was uploading it to Anchor now on
Mhm.
Spotify. So you just upload it and you have to enter a little bit of information. And then obviously you want to also add keywords and you want to add snippets and stuff like that so that it's getting crawled by
Yeah.
SEO. So I'm still learning the nuances of that. I mean, we just posted episode 11 yesterday.
Right.
Okay.
And
Congratulations.
We recorded
so,
13, so that
right.
was the one we did yesterday.
Um,
Oh, we got our first, well, I saw it, it came last month and I just saw it last night. We got fan mail and I was like,
That's amazing.
I only need
yep.
one. I only
That
needed
feels
one
good.
person to say, you ladies are doing a great job. Me and oh, I forgot the puppy's name now, but she listens with her dog and she sent us a picture of the dog. And I was like,
It's a
it's
pug.
all worth
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Oh,
all worth it. It's all worth it. Okay.
Well, and we did an event a few weekends ago too, and they're like, "Oh,
Mhm.
are you the ones that do that Let's Bark About It podcast?" Like,
Yeah.
yes, we are.
Yes.
So,
that's awesome. I
so
mean,
that,
what a
yeah.
great way to get into the ears of your target market and
Mhm.
to connect to the industry. And again, just you're getting out there in that market and getting in front of other people. And like the
Mhm.
brilliance of it is, maybe you're talking to a dog trainer. That dog trainer is probably going to share with her followers, and then you're talking to a brewery, they're going to share, and then you're talking to a veterinarian, and it's just going to go
Mhm.
on and on. Everyone's going to be sharing, and this is,
Oh,
I mean, I think it
exactly.
has exponential growth
Yeah,
possibilities.
and the stuff we're bringing to the table, I think it's very important for people to to know, to hear, to have the education behind it. Some of it's
Mm-hmm.
frivolous, fun, and us talking, but a lot of
Mm-hmm.
it's really informative, and that's the plan with it. So,
Right. Yeah, we've already had health training topics yesterday, or the episode that went out yesterday was a hospice in-home euthanasia vet
Mm-hmm.
talking about end-of-life care. And so we've had some, some meaty topics, but then we also have just some fun meet-up groups that have been on.
yeah.
We interviewed a guest yesterday who has been super supportive of us. So it's also a way for us to support our marketing partners or
Mm-hmm.
our friends in the
People that have
industry.
been there for us. Yeah.
So it's a great
Yeah.
way for us to celebrate them as well. So there's just, yeah, I mean, it's time consuming. I'm not going to lie.
So
um,
right.
but, but what the easiest part so far has actually been booking people. Like people want to be on it. I thought we
Oh
were going
yeah.
to get a lot of no's. We have not had anybody say no.
Mm-mm.
And we set up a really easy booking process. It's kind of like yours. It's just through Dubsado, but we send
Uh-huh.
them a link and they can go on. They can pick a date for their interview, and then there's automated emails that go out that tell them, how to
Yep.
do to
Reminder.
prepare, and then
Yep.
we send appointment reminders ahead of time. So once it's scheduled, we can just kind of forget it, and we can just send, hey, do you want to be on the podcast? Here's a link to,
Yeah.
so it's been really easy to get people to be on it. We have people reaching out saying, I want to be on it.
Yeah, that's
Um,
great.
Yeah,
so yeah.
that part's been exciting. And when I first started asking people, I would send them the link to the first like 2 episodes, which
Oh no.
yeah, but that's all we had. I'm like,
Well, I know, and
"Hey,
it's
we're
just
doing
like
this
anything. Yep.
podcast."
The more you do
Um,
it, then it gets better and better, and you look
yeah,
back
I'm
to the
like,
first
Yeah.
like your first images you took, you're like,
Oh,
"Oh," your first
well,
exactly.
paid
yeah,
client, you're like, "Oh my god."
so my go-to line was, "Hey, we're doing this podcast. Here's a link if you wanna listen to it. I promise we are going to get better."
Hmm.
And everybody's been like, "Yeah, I wanna be on it." I'm like, "Okay,
Yeah.
must" so and
Right.
we're
Well,
getting
I mean,
better.
it's
I
a
think we sound great.
no-brainer. It just takes a little bit of time on their part, and it
Mhm.
becomes this great marketing avenue that lives on forever. That's one of the great things about podcasts too. I mean, we still
Mhm.
have Hair of the Dog podcast has been going on for over 3 years now, which blows my mind. And I mean, there's still downloads on our very first episodes. Like
Right.
people new come to the channel and they look back, and even
Mhm.
going back, I mean, we're almost 200 episodes in, and yeah, they're still getting that old content. So
Right.
that's one of those things. It's like YouTube where things live on longer
Exactly.
Yeah.
than say a social media post.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I will say one thing we've had almost everybody ask, or most people ask, is it just audio? Yeah, I'm great with that. But if it's video, I
Mm.
don't know. I don't know. Do you get that? Because I know you're doing video now on yours.
I know, which is mostly just for social media snippets.
Okay.
I mean, we do post it to YouTube. We do have a couple people I think that still stream it. It's like 50 YouTube streams a week usually of I think people just put it
Hmm.
on while they're editing or doing work or whatever. It's easier than listening on the podcast or on a podcast app. But yeah, no, there hasn't really been any pushback. I think because at least in the photography industry, people know that the importance of video,
Hmm.
where
Yeah.
maybe in like the local pet industry, they're still just like they haven't started to accept that new reality.
Right. Well, the reason why I'm asking is we actually, I mean, I've been toying with the idea of going that direction because we have some people we would love to have on, but it kind of requires video. Like we have this one friend that we've done projects with, and she makes the most
Oh, Jill.
incredible pet mohawks. Actually, there's a bunch of pet photographers now. I introduced them to a few
Yeah.
pet photographer friends within the group, and a lot of
Uh-huh.
people have ordered them from her. I think Courtney has some, Courtney Bryson, and
Yeah.
yeah, a few others have Jill's mohawks. It's such a punk mohawks. If anybody wants to go check her out,
What
um,
is it? Is it like a mohawk that you put on the
On your
dog
on
or in
on
the
the
dog, they're
dog?
you put on the dog.
fabulous.
And so the magic is the way that they attach, because everything I ever try to put on a dog, they always want to shake it off or it doesn't stay
Right.
on. But she
It's
has managed to engineer this really awesome way of attaching that I like. Most dogs, I won't say every dog, but almost every dog that she puts them on, they act like they don't feel like they've got anything on their head.
very
Oh my
And
light.
god.
she's by trade a wig maker, so she's really talented, and the
Wow.
construction is incredible. But these mohawks are amazing. She has them in rainbow colors. She has them
Oh,
in,
yeah.
it's like some of them are actually like real. materials, but most of them are just, it's like a fake fur.
What's the name
Um,
of her business?
Such a
such
punk.
such a punk mohawks.
I thought it was Such a Punk Pet. Let
Oh,
me
it might be such a
Hold on.
punk pets.
but
But
she's just fabulous.
SuchAPunkPets.com.
she
Oh
has
my
an
God,
Etsy.
these are amazing.
She's
Okay, I'll send.
and she's another one of those. Lori called me up. She's like, Nikki, I don't know, but I think it sounds okay. What do you think? And Jill had reached out and said, hey, I need a session. BBC over in England is going to video it and I need photos. What do you think? And I was like, oh no, okay.
Well,
And
I was going to call her up and graciously say no because she sent an email and it was BBC wants to do or she just said I have an odd request. I forget exactly what it was. I don't know, but it was basically she was looking for a free photo shoot.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm like, I
of
was
a
going to call
naked
her.
cat.
Yeah, I'm going to graciously call her up and tell
Yeah.
her no. But as soon as she gets on the phone, she goes, I totally understand if you say no because this is the most bizarre request. And then
And we
she's
were in.
yeah, it's like okay, all right. She appreciates that us doing that if we do this for no cost, whatever.
Right,
And
right, right.
so what it was is BBC Channel 4 has a thing that they do on people with unusual jobs, and they were doing a segment on her. And so they actually had a videographer come in from Orlando, and a dog, or she had a cat that was being brought in. It was a hairless cat,
Hairless,
Uh-huh.
yeah. Buck
and
naked.
his name is Buck Naked. That was modeling for us, and so we're like, this could be fun. It could be interesting, education. We really were not expecting anything but having some fun out of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So we do the shoot, and then of course Jill gives us some mohawks, which was great. We thought, oh, this was worth it just to get the mohawks.
Yeah.
And then of course the lady who brought her cat in ended up buying an album and a bunch of other stuff, and she's become a friend. And now we like if we're ever doing an event and Jill is there, we like make it a point. We'll call the organizer and say, put us next to her because she has a line. She's literally
Swamped.
has a line going out of her booth to buy her mohawk, so it gives us great exposure.
That's
So
Yeah.
she's just become a
fantastic.
great friend. Yeah.
It's been
Oh my,
great, and the hold off on any of that with the video, for me at least, it was like, "Oh, no, this could go viral for all the wrong reasons, and I don't wanna be in it because 'cause I'll be the one." I'm clumsy, I will fall over, and I will be on the internet
you're snitty.
forever,
You're
and
okay.
I didn't fall over, and I didn't go viral, and she got, hundreds of thousands of hits on that video, so it was
Mhm.
great.
That's amazing.
Right.
Yeah,
And
no,
we
So,
video's so good. Yeah,
yeah.
well,
for
and
sure.
we did tell the videographer that we would kill him if he shot from behind our butt.
Yeah.
Set
No,
those
no,
expectations.
no butt
We
shots.
didn't really say that, but yeah.
We had a conversation. We had a conversation about it. So
Oh my
So,
gosh. I love it.
anyway,
I love
we
it.
keep getting off topic, but
I know,
yeah.
but I
yeah.
mean,
But I
those
mean, that's the
mohawks
whole point.
100%,
That's the whole
100%
point.
matter.
We want to have Jill on the podcast, but it's hard to
Right.
talk about her
She's
product
it's
without.
very visual, yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
have to be
right.
able to see it. So yeah, so we probably will start doing video before long.
Yeah, you could probably even give people the option to do video, or still
Hmm.
give them the option to
Right.
just do audio if need be. Um Okay, so this is good. So I want to kind of recap what needs to happen if you guys are out there and you maybe want to start a podcast series for your local market. Um, Definitely, you need to get an idea of who your target market is, who you want to be talking to, what the kind of basis of the show is, like what's the thing that's going to bring it all together. Probably dogs. So that's fairly easy. And then really it's just figuring out who you're going to have as your, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess the platform. I use Buzzsprout, which is like the easiest thing on the planet, and then you can link to all of the different platforms like Spotify and Apple iTunes and Stitcher, and there's like all these ones that I've never even heard of that it just sends it out. So it's like you upload it once to
It
there
just goes.
and then off it
Hmm.
goes, and it's really really easy, and I think it's like $12 a month, so it's like not expensive at all. You can do these podcasts so inexpensively. And then as far as like mics and things like that, no, my mic was probably $100. It was not that expensive. I have on my kit.co, I think it's let me see. Hold on. There it is. Kit.co/Nicole Begley. I have really all my little podcasting things if you guys want to see what you need, but really all you need is a mic, right? A
Mic and a
mic and a
headset.
computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, just a way
Earbuds.
to hear something and speak
Mhm.
something. And that's really it. And then you just get a little editing done of the podcast, need some artwork, and then you put it out into the world.
Yeah.
And then
Then you
yeah.
swallow the frog
Yeah,
and
and you just do it. And it
fear
doesn't
in
have to be
motion. Yeah.
perfect.
You just do
Yeah.
it.
I mean, there's so many how many things are in our businesses, guys, that we have sat on the sidelines, like saying we want to do this, we want to do this. A year goes by, 2 years goes by, and we just haven't done it because oftentimes it's because two reasons. I have a whole podcast episode on procrastination. Number one is we don't know how to do it. So we want it to be perfect. So it's just easier to do other things than figure out how to do something we don't know how to do. Or number two, maybe there's some sort of fear behind it of what's going to happen if I do that, or I'm putting myself out there in this podcast. People are going to judge me. People are going to think, negatively about me, whatever.
Yes.
Um, so one of those two reasons is why it's not getting done. And we can definitely help short circuit that by giving ourselves the permission to just get it done with like B minus work. Like, just
Find
do it.
yourself a business partner that shoves you.
If you want to feel
Did
really good about
at least
doing a
should you.
podcast, go listen to our first episode because you
Go
really can't do
listen
much worse.
I really do. Lori sounds great. Lori has sounded great from the very beginning. She sounds polished and she's my role model and I just sound like I'm half asleep. So I learned a lot from listening to my own voice it does. So Lori does all of the editing. She puts it together. We both share it on different platforms and it'll take me a good 2 hours to hit play to listen to it. I'll share it before I listen to it myself because I'm so nervous and I'm so scared and it's just terrifying to me. And it's all about just doing it anyway, and it
Mhm.
sounds so silly. You hear all of these speakers and the TED Talks and just do it anyway. Just do it anyway. I'm like, ugh. And I'm just doing it anyway. But it helps to have somebody in your corner saying, come on, let's go, let's do this. So,
Yeah, for sure.
again, Lori says, hey, you wanna? And I'm like, yeah, why not? And she's like, then we're doing it. I'm like, oh no.
You're like, wait, that's
So
not what I meant. Can I take
yeah,
that
yeah.
back?
So we cheer each other on. We're both
Mhm.
pushing each other.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that. One more question about that is with the podcast, do you guys have any specific strategies you're using to convert listeners into people on your list or to get them to convert into pet photography clients?
So far we have done none of the above. We wanted to have at least 10 to 12 episodes before we
Yep.
really started going out there pushing. So we're kind of at that point. And so right, that's my next step is I have to learn how to do that. So
Uh-huh.
that's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
next step in the whole podcast journey. And we didn't want to start really selling right away
Yeah.
because, we wanted to, I mean, honestly, I don't think somebody's going to listen to our podcast and say, "Oh my God, I'm going to go book a pet session right now." I think what
Right.
they're going to do is they're going to get to know us a little bit more. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that they'll just start listening. And I think our clients are probably just going to come because people are listening to the podcast, and it might be because they're a client of the business we've just interviewed, and that it'll
Mm-hmm.
just plant the seed, and they'll remember us. So I don't know that we need to push anything now. We have some things coming down the road here before too long, and we will probably definitely be not probably, but we will definitely be leveraging the podcast to promote that. But it's premature to
Yeah.
talk about that too much. But again, it's long game.
Yeah.
And
I think it's like the book, it's building relationships
Mm-hmm.
and the book turned out so great and never did we think, I mean, I was like, people actually somebody bought it like 2 months ago. Like they're still buying the
yeah, we're
book.
still
And
selling
we're still
copies.
like, and they're not in the book and they're
Yeah.
not our friends and they
Like an
don't even
actual
know
real
anybody in the
random
book.
person.
It's like a real, and we're like, oh my gosh, it's a real book and real people are buying our real book. What did we make? And I think that for me, that the podcast is the same. We're doing this as a great project and building relationships and sharing information. And I'd be really surprised if it doesn't in the long run come back and somebody say, oh yeah, 2 years ago, I listened to your podcast. Boy, you stuttered a lot. That was funny. And you're so much better now. Oh, and they turn out to be like our best client, our best friend. So
Oh yeah,
that's
for sure.
where I'm
Yeah.
trying to go with it personally.
And we did have one episode that was on the importance of pet photography. So we weren't
Yeah.
necessarily advertising ourselves. We basically talked about there's a photographer for everyone. We
Mhm.
did talk about ours is a more of a boutique style um, studio, but that there
Yep.
are portrait photographers out there for everyone. And so
It's
it
just
wasn't really
important.
so much to sell ourselves as it was to just sell the idea of getting pet portraits.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that. I think there's
so,
probably a lot of ways that you can start to leverage that in ways that aren't
mhm,
direct salesy of like, "Hey, book now, book now."
Yeah.
right.
Even just having like, "Hey, jump to our website and grab the download of like the best pet friendly restaurants. So here's your best pet, like our podcast approved providers or whatever of
Yeah.
different things." That then end up getting on your email list that you can then continue to nurture that way as well, or just so many different ways. And
Right.
um the one nice thing, I don't know if the platform you're using has this, but Buzzsprout has what's called dynamic content. So when you are doing a promotion or something that you do want to promote on the podcast, you can record a pre-roll or a post-roll that will go onto every single episode, or you can make it specific for only certain episodes. So
Oh,
that way, if somebody's listening to one that you recorded 3 years ago, but you're talking about something that's upcoming now, they'll still get that messaging because it automatically puts it on there,
right.
even for
Yeah.
the old episodes, which is
Yeah, I need to go check that
super
out.
cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
jumped on
Buzz.
Anchor. I jumped on Anchor because,
Uh-huh.
or it was Anchor. It's free, so I haven't
Yeah,
paid a dime
right.
for that. But it
Yeah.
was just because if the first two episodes really suck, we're done. No, it's like
Right,
we
exactly.
can still
No, for
stop. It
sure.
didn't cost us anything. But I
Yeah,
have
yeah,
been I've been poking around Buzzsprout a little bit and looking for some
yeah.
different platforms because the right now, unless there's something I'm missing, it is a little bit limited. Like there's no place to put real show notes. I mean, you can put a
Mm,
description and you can put stuff in, but
yeah.
it doesn't really have a lot of slots for adding stuff. So we've been doing it. Well, here's the other thing I'm going to throw out there. We have Squarespace, and
Mhm.
Squarespace lets you set up a blog page for podcasts.
Oh, nice.
So by putting it on there, our website has new content
Mhm.
every single week. So it's like doing a
Mhm.
blog post.
Yep.
Mhm.
And that has definitely impacted our SEO already.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, that's
Definitely
huge.
helping.
I'm just saying. So if for no other reason, for your own SEO, give you new content on your own
Yeah,
website, it's already benefiting us there too. So
that's
um,
fantastic.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
well, and if you do decide to move services at any point, like I'm not sitting here trying to sell you on Buzzsprout. Like I don't own Buzzsprout. I just love it. It's great. But most of them will give you free migration services too if you ever
oh,
wanted to
cool. Yeah,
explore
that was my
Oh,
big
okay.
question before we had
that.
to, I wanted to look into it before we had too many episodes so that
Yeah.
we,
Yeah.
could migrate if we needed to. Cool.
Yeah, yeah. So, oh my gosh, so fun. So, final word of encouragement for anyone out there that maybe has had this little seed in the back of their head thinking like this could be a fun medium. I love the
Hmm.
podcast. I mean, like I can record it in my pajama pants and have many
Right.
times. It's like such a fun, easy way to connect with people, and I love listening to podcasts too because it's easy. Like, who has time to sit and watch stuff in front of a computer? Not me.
Right.
I listen.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And
So
I
if you
think
guys what
yeah,
advice do you have for anyone that might have been, like, having that
just
little seed in the
just
back of their head?
just do it. I mean, just ask yourself, what is the absolute worst that could happen? And
Yeah.
nothing bad could happen by giving it a try. I mean,
Yep.
literally nothing bad could happen. And you just tell your first guest, "You're my first guest. I have no clue how this is going to work out." Pick somebody you're
Mhm.
friends with or that you're comfortable with. But again, nothing bad could happen by giving it a try. Um, and I mean, you have nothing but the opportunity to benefit from it. And even
Yeah.
if it's nothing more than getting comfortable talking, to
Yep.
someone or interviewing, it's a great skill to learn or to practice. I mean, and if nobody listens or nobody watches it, that's okay too. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you're getting the SEO out of it. It's easier than
Yeah.
typing content.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
You'll
just
be surprised how many people I bet start listening though when it's, such
But
a
you
great
don't
little niche, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, on podcasts though, you don't even have to interview. You could just go on. I've listened to podcasts where they're just telling stories.
Mhm.
So as a photographer, you just go on there and say, "Oh yeah, today I shot it photographed. I don't use shot again. A Frenchie and it ran me over and you could just tell stories and I think that would be fun for
Hmm.
people
Yeah.
too. So if it's like, oh, I don't even know anybody and nobody would be on my thing. You could just tell stories, and I'm 100% just do it because out of the three of us, I know I am the most terrified in the room right now. So, and I'm surviving. Haven't
You
Well,
died
have
yet.
survived. You've
she's
done a
doing
I
great
it.
have
job.
survived.
But I do have one word of advice for anybody who does it is have a stopwatch
Oh yeah.
because we're really bad about going too long. So as
Yeah,
you can tell,
yeah.
we're just sitting here dragging this one on
I
longer.
know,
Yeah.
it's all good. It's all good.
Lori and I can talk. We are two talkers. So
Well,
yeah.
and our guests, it's like we enjoy our guests so much that it's hard to wrap up, and then our post conversations will go on for another
Yeah,
hour.
yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Although I think people enjoy that. I mean, it depends. That's one thing I did want to point out is even with deciding, yeah, I want to do a podcast, then you still have options of what you want that podcast to be. Do you want it to just be you talking to the microphone? I thought that's what I was going to do mainly for my podcast when I started. Turns out I hate solo episodes because I just feel like I get way too in my head and then I like have to start and stop and then I'm like, like I love having guests on my podcast, and this is so light and easy for me. And it's just so conversational, and we just show up
Mhm.
and we chat.
mhm,
Where other people want to, like, I've been guests on podcasts where they send me, here's the questions we're going to talk about. And like for their brain, they want to sit down and kind of like hit these different points. So there's so many different ways that you can run your podcast
Yeah.
depending on what
mhm.
feels best for you. So definitely experiment, test it out because what you think you're going to like the best actually might not. And then the things that you wouldn't think you'd like I really didn't think I'd like to have guests. I thought I would be way too nervous about it and like not be able to get good information out and like not know what to ask and just feel like it's all over the place. They're my favorite. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's how we've kind of approached it. It's just a conversation.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, we oftentimes will have a list of questions just in case
Yeah.
we totally like mind blank.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's sort of a crutch. We'll have a list of questions that we can choose from, but honestly, we don't
Just a
even use
guide.
yeah,
Yeah.
we don't even use it with most of our guests because the conversation just flows the way it needs to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think the hardest part. Oop, my watch.
Siri
I
wants
don't know.
in on the conversation too now. She's a man.
I don't know if you could hear that, but that was hilarious. Siri. Anyway, for me, the hardest part is just speaking up. So
Yeah.
yeah, with Lori, I'll let Lori do the whole time, and I'm like, oh, I didn't say a word. So
Okay, you're there in spirit.
she's,
yeah, I'm like,
I was joking. She was my Ed McMahon.
yeah, we joke that I'm Ed McMahon because in the beginning, and I'm talking a little bit more, and I think as it
Yeah.
goes on, Lori will be like, hey, share the mic here. But the first few, I'm just like real quiet, don't even know I'm there. I pop up. And now I'm like, hey, I have a question too. So
Yeah.
I
No,
think
that's great. Just
so the
shows that you
advice would be, yeah.
yeah. Oh, go ahead. It just shows
Oh,
you
I
get
was
more
gonna
comfortable the more you go do it, right?
yeah, as you
Yeah.
get comfortable. So, I mean, you could record like 5 and post them, and then don't even share them, but post them and then share number 6.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, for sure. Oh my gosh, ladies, this has been so fun. I hope you guys out there in Hair of the Dogland enjoyed our conversation, even though it whatever.
I
It
don't know.
meandered. That's the
Meandered.
word I'm looking for.
Meandered.
Some
Yeah.
word with an
Definitely
M
meander.
into all sorts of different little rabbit holes, but I think they were all beneficial. So, Laurie, Nikki, thank
Thanks.
you for being here. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
spending the time.
This
Thank
was so
you.
much fun.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah, I had a
I think I've heard every single one of your podcasts, so it's going to be really crazy when
every
this one
single
drops.
one.
I won't say every single one, but the vast majority of them. It's such great car listening when I'm
Yeah,
He
driving
listens in the
somewhere.
car. Yeah.
I do. I listen in the car. It's great. So,
I love it. Oh, thanks.
So,
Awesome. Yeah, no, this has been so good. Where can everybody find you guys again if they want to follow along with your podcast and follow along with your business?
so we're at urbandogstudio.com.
mhm.
We are at also Urban Dog Studio on Facebook. And then we
Instagram.
won't Instagram. Well, and we won't go into why on Instagram you have to add an underscore. Let's just say that Instagram's really bad about just canceling or closing down your account for no apparent
We
reason.
lost
And
our
Oh
first account.
no.
yeah, so now it's
Yikes.
urban underscore
Score.
dog
Dog
underscore
underscore.
studio. Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a whole episode for another day.
Yeah, it's
And then you can find
learning.
you can find the podcast and all the major. You can find it on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts.
Yeah, perfect.
Basically all of those. And if you just Google "Let's Bark About It Tampa Bay" or "Urban Dog Studio," you'll probably find us.
It'll show up.
Awesome.
It's on
Yay.
LinkedIn. Woo.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys, for being here. This was a great conversation, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.